Evening, everyone. Welcome to the Anacortes City Council meeting of April 21st, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Franciac, take the roll, please.
Mr. Fantini.
Here.
Mr. Young.
Here.
Mr. Walters.
Here.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Here.
Ms. Moulton. Mr. McDougall.
Here.
Ms. Hubick.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, announcements and committee reports. I've got a couple of announcements. I'd like to thank everybody who was involved. There's too many to thank here for everybody involved in the rededication of the lookout at Cap Santa. I know a number of council members were there, and really is a fantastic addition to that'll have decades of use in the future. So a really amazing accomplishment for the city. So if you haven't been up there, be sure to check it out. It's been reopened with a fantastic lookout. Also, a big thank you to Public Works. It's always a big day when we have the residential cleanup. That was last Saturday. Almost 400 folks attended, had 21 employees there, collected 27 tons of garbage and 6 cubic yards of yard waste, and we're still weighing the amount of scrap metal. So we'll have that number some point in the future. Tomorrow is a special election day, April 22nd. Ballot boxes will be open until till 8 p.m. on election night. Anacortes Public Library next to the drive-up book drop-off on 10th Street, and Skyline Beach Club at 6041 Sands Way in Skyline. Also things coming up this week, Anacortes Community and Recreation Center public meeting. That will be Thursday in City Council chambers. The former Mayor Gear and a lot of parks folks, and hopefully you all will be there, as this is an opportunity to help shape the future of a proposed recreation center. Tomorrow is Earth Day, the 22nd, and the 25th is Arbor Day. So a couple of celebrations for those events. Arbor Day tree planting, Friday, April 25th, 10 a.m., Altair Americas Memorial Park. Friday the 25th, Luminary Light Parade, that's at 8 p.m., commercial. Saturday, April 26th, a number of events that begin at 4 p.m. with booths for family, followed by a sustainable fashion show at 4:30 and procession of the Species Parade at 5 p.m. And then all are invited at 6 p.m. for music, dancing at the Creative Hub with the Anacortes High School Jazz Band and Dogtail Swing. And I think, and 23rd, there's also going to be a street closure Wednesday, 7th Street, and between O and Commercial for some crane operations. Some heads up there. Okay, council announcements, committee reports, Public Works Committee.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
The Public Works Committee, Mr. Young and myself met right before this meeting. We talked about a number of things, none of which we generated any recommendations about, but just to give you a brief rundown. First of all, we talked about the external requirement from the State Health Department to protect the city's water system from hazards, and especially with respect to docks on private docks and water that's on private docks down at Skyline. We talked about the 12th and Commercial non-roundabout project. Bids are due next week after Public Works issues an addendum to give contractors a little bit more time to formulate those bids, so we should have some information about that sometime pretty soon. We talked about the wastewater treatment plant outfall project, and it is still on track, apparently, to change direction of drilling around the start of next month. So they go left, then they go right, and that hopefully will still happen. Things are looking good on the project overall. We did get complaints of diesel exhaust, and we inquired with Public Works as to whether that is something that could be mitigated or if it was a significant enough thing that we should be looking at it further. And then 23rd and D Avenue is in design right now for a crosswalk with bulb outs, which should be a significant improvement there. We did receive, the city received a petition a number of weeks ago from school children looking to try to get across D Avenue in a safe manner, and there aren't any marked crosswalks along there, so that should be a significant upgrade. I think that's it. Thank you.
Any questions for Public Works Committee? Any other announcements or committee reports?
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Young.
Thank you. Just wanted to update council and the public that the Economic Development Committee met 2 weeks ago. I wasn't here last Monday to give the report, but I just wanted to update you that staff and myself, as well as Western Washington University, had a very in-depth conversation. The second draft that we've been able to come through about the processes we're going through, the things we hope to attain, the outcomes, you know, the views of all of the data that was collected, such that it would be surmised in a way that would be of benefit not only to the city, but also in helping us figure out a direction we want to go, or for us to look at it holistically and then decide those things that we may want to address. But it was a very productive meeting. You know, Western is keen to give us exactly what we're looking for. We, as a city, wanted a bit more detail and to flush out some of the additional points that were necessary in it. As soon as the document comes back, it was some edits that, of course, staff caught, and some tweaks around that we wanted, such that it is presentable in the fashion that we want and flows the way that we want, which then allows us to begin to organize around that and to get our head around where we are, what we're doing, what we may want to do or may not want to do. But it's really a great document. I think that the improvements that, since the work that the staff has really been putting in to make sure that it happens, it's been very positive. And so I'm looking forward to the next iteration. I think we gave them about 2 weeks or something like that, Mr. Coleman. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, those will be some of the final drafts, and then we'll do a final edit and meeting, and of course we'll bring it forward to council as well as you, the public, to take a look at it. Thank you.
Any questions for Econ Development? Any other announcements or committee reports I may have missed? All right, we'll move on to public comment. This is a time in the meeting where any member of the public wishes to address the council on anything that is not on our agenda. And we've got a couple things for public comment later on if you're here, but always go with who signed up in writing first. And I've got a Robert Festa, I believe. So again, please state your name for the record and the city you live in, and that's it. And then we give you 3 minutes to address the council, and make sure the microphone is on, which is at the bottom of the base of the microphone. There's a button, and then it'll turn green.
How does that sound?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay,
And make sure to talk into the microphone a little, kind of
Sure.
close. Since
Is this better?
Yep. There you go.
My name is Robert Festa. I live in Anacortes, and I've been here for 15 years. I live at 901 7th Street. And since I live across the street from the Eagles Hall, I've been paying very close attention to it since I've been here, but in particular in the last 5 or 6 years. I've been in a constant conversation with the intermediary between the local Eagles and the national organization. And the intermediary is suggesting that this is probably a good time to pulse forward with a new proposal. I put in a proposal a couple of years ago that was not answered. It was not counted, it was not answered, and just quiet. And so we believe that this is a good time for us to come take another look at it as a community. The intermediary, that is to say the trustee, the manager that's out in the field, is suggesting that I bring the voice of the Anacortes community with my proposal when I hopefully can get an appointment in Ohio where they meet from time to time. And I'd like to be able to know that I'm going there with a certain amount of support in this effort. Many people can say, well, this is what we ought to do and that ought to be done, but here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at this being occupied by a new nonprofit that will oversee the development of the property and its productive reuse. I'm on a regular conversation with Michael Hauser, who oversees for the state of Washington, the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. He was and now continues to be very excited about this project. It said, it's right in my wheelhouse, Robert. I've been in this seat for 25 years. I can help you with this. So with much support, with much time, talent, and treasure from the residents and other people that have skills in this area, we believe that if we create a new nonprofit, that we can occupy the building, we could put together a program, we could put together a pro forma, uses that will not only pay for the building, maintain the building, upgrade the building, even if the building is given to us for a gift, we're still many millions of dollars away because it needs every system, it needs every surface. Next steps, I need to hear from the community. If in fact somebody wants to talk to me about it this evening, I'm willing to stay. Or I could just give you my telephone number right now, and at your leisure, you can call me, and this is my subject. I love talking about this Eagles building and the future of it. We can make a plan for the next 100 years. The building will be 100 years old in 2008, and I'd like to think that we are the stewards of this opportunity, and I just happen to be the first voice, that's it. The next thing is getting in front of the decision makers. When I have those voices, when I hear from you, when I hear from the Chamber of Commerce, when I hear from the Downtown Alliance, and a handful of other people that know me and my own background. My background is real estate, and I've been in real estate since 1976. So do the math. I've been around for a while. I was a licensee for 20 years, and then you never get out of real estate. So at any rate, I'm happy to share my contact information. If anybody is interested, if they would just tell me that they're interested right now, and I'll stay. If not, I will just leave my telephone number and leave it at that. Okay. Did I use my 3 minutes?
You did. I don't think there's any restriction from giving your telephone number out. So you can go ahead and put your telephone number in the record, and it'll be published as part of the record.
My number is 206-713-9109. And I see that nobody is suggesting that I wait until the end of the meeting, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else like to address the council that didn't sign up? And don't have anybody online. Okay, we will move on to our consent agenda, item 5, and it's 5A through C. Council.
Mayor Miller,
Mr. McDougall.
I move approval of consent agenda items A through C.
Second.
Yeah, motion by Mr. McDougall, a second by Mr. Young to approve the consent agenda items A through C. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. On to item 6. This is a public hearing. 6A, public hearing, Community Development Block Grant, 2025 Action Plan. This is a discussion item with possible action. And we had a first public hearing back in March, I think it was March 10th. And have we received any written comments? While you're getting up there, Ms. Snyder, I guess you're presenting. So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and go.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an update from March 10th. We are required to have 2 public hearings and a 30-day citizen comment period. We did publish this twice in the Anacortes American and the Skagit Valley Herald, as well as posted it to our website. And the plan was presented on March 10th before council. At this time, the public hearing on March 10th was announced and closed. The draft annual action plan had been presented. The updates on the projects that we had done in 2024 were presented. The citizen participation was announced, and the participation period was active from March 15th through April 15th. No comments from any citizens have been received. And at this point, I'm just going to pull up the bullet points of what we were talking about using our funding for the grant year of 2025. This plan will be due to HUD on May 15th, if approved by council, for HUD to approve, and then we can go forth. We're basing the amount and the allocations on our 2024 grant year, and I have it up on the screen.
All right, so this is the last chance for the public hearing. Before I turn it over to council, I will close the public hearing, but this is the last opportunity for any members of the public that want to comment on that. Okay, so with that, I will close the public hearing, and now over to council for possible action. I think you did such a great job presenting before.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Fantini.
Thank you very much, Ms. Snyder, for the presentation last time. Did hear a lot of, I know we don't get a lot of emails a lot of the times or hear back from a lot of people, but run into a lot of people. There's a lot of support for what we're doing with these funds. It's nice to see some new groups on here this year, and it's also nice to see some folks that we know have a proven track record of getting things done with this money. I don't know if there's any other comments from council, but if there is not, I move that we approve these allocations as presented.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Fantini and a second by Mr. Walters to approve the 2025 draft CDBG action plan. Any additional discussion?
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Thank you. I will be abstaining from voting because I serve on the board for the Family Center, one of the recipients of funding for this plan.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Okay, Mr. Franciac, you take the vote, please.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Abstain.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Ms. Hubick.
yes,
Mr. Fantini.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, council.
All right, on to item 7, other business. 7A is a first quarter finance update. This is a discussion item, and I'll stall a little bit longer for Mr. Hoagland because we'll have an ordinance. I'm sure we'll talk about that next as well, 7B, for a first quarter budget amendment to go along with the first quarter finance update. Mr. Hoagland, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, members of the audience. Just a quick first quarter update. So this is data through March. I will point out a couple things as we get there. There are a couple of March month-end items we still haven't reconciled. So this is not 100% complete data, but as I said, I'll point that out. It's nothing really material, and you'll still get the kind of the picture of where we're at. From a city finance perspective. So this overall tax chart, so I'll point out again, this metric of 25%, this is the first quarter of the year, so all things being equal, we'd expect to see about 25% progress through both revenues and expenditures. The difference here in property tax, we get two main tranches of revenues from property tax every year that occur in May and November. So you can see we've only received a few $100,000 at this point. Utility taxes are up a little bit beyond what we would expect. We'll talk more about that. Sales tax, likewise, slightly under. We'll talk more about that as well. And some of these other revenue streams, REIT, for example, at 8.5%. We'll talk more detail about that as well. But you'll see once we get there, the real estate excise tax receipts have been lagging under traditional norms. But we've also budgeted to use real estate excise tax cash reserves, which are budgeted as revenues. So that kind of skews the revenue budget in that way. TBD tax, affordable housing tax are both tracking pretty squarely. Same with public safety sales tax. Lodging tax is 11.9% at this point. We'll talk in more detail about that as well. But that's to be expected, we get the majority of our lodging tax later in the year during the tourist season in the summertime. So looking at the sales tax at a more detailed level, the bars here are broken out. The green bars are the budget, you know, the budget we would expect to receive on a monthly basis. The orange bars are what we've actually received, and then the red and blue lines are just that same budget represented in line chart. So I'm going to drop down to this next view where you can see the detail by monthly receipts. So comparing the first quarter of 2025 against first quarter of 2024, you can see we're up 4.5% compared to 2024 through the first quarter. Last year, 2024, through the first quarter, we were down 7.4%. You can see now 2022 is our peak sales tax year. 23 was down a little bit, 24 was down a little bit. So 25, we're up compared to the prior year, but still down compared to that peak of 2022. We looked into the details of this. I mean, I guess it is encouraging to see that the monthly receipt in March at $450,000 compared to prior years of $372 last year, $418 the year before. We looked into that a little bit, and what's giving us a boost in sales tax in March of this year was primarily boat sales. We did a little bit of research and found that the Seattle Boat Show was taking place in, I believe, the last week of January and the first week of February. This March sales tax is based on January sales, so we believe that Seattle Boat Show generated some sales with Anacortes delivery locations, and that gave us a little shot in the arm. Also, we're continuing to see a benefit from the city's outfall project is generating additional sales tax that we're seeing in our monthly receipts.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Young.
Thank you. And, you know, Mr. Hoagland, I know your presentations are generally very detailed, and I don't want to get ahead of you, but at some point in your presentation, will you be able to sort of give us a window as to what made 2022 so, you know, those differences between 2022 and, you know, if it's something we did, someone else did, not doing better, those bits of details will give us a window into how we might, you know, move forward to begin to address some of it. I'm sure you're going to get to it at some point, but I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So what we were seeing to that point, if you look back, kind of the natural, you know, year-to-year progression through sales tax, 2018 was a bit of an anomaly. That was the last year of our sales tax receipts from the high school project. If memory serves, that was a $70 million project that we received a great deal of sales tax for. So it kind of dropped down in 2019 back to a more normalized level. 2020 obviously was the COVID year, and then 21 it came back. Looking at just at the totals, you can see, you know, we would expect to see and kind of hope to see an annual increase in sales tax year to year of 8 to 10% is kind of the, if we hit that 8 to 10% on average over time, then we can generally meet our expenditure needs with the other revenue streams that we have in place. So 2022 was just kind of the peak of that year to year progression. At that point, the building industry is a large sector of what generates sales tax for us, and at that point is when CPI started increasing a little bit higher. The Federal Reserve started raising rates, and since then, that's been impacting our building sector. We'll talk about building permits a little bit more in a little bit later, but that's been one of the sectors that's been affected by, or that's been affecting sales taxes, that slowdown in the building sector. So what we've been seeing, we monitor this pretty closely month to month, and the only sectors we've really been seeing growth in is boat sales, some areas of, in some areas of hospitality. So lodging tax, hospitality, and boat sales. So I mean, I don't know, I'm not trying to read too much into it, but it seems like those things that people that have money spend money on seems to, they're continuing to spend money on, because some of the other areas that we, like the base service restaurants, auto sales, construction, so those areas aren't increasing like some of the other areas. So we, because of destination-based sales tax, we're still seeing the benefits of online sales from the online platforms, but then hospitality and boats has been helping. So that's, I was going to move on to utility tax unless there's other questions about sales tax. So we've talked about this in the past. I guess I'll, again, kind of revisit real quickly. Our three largest revenues, tax revenue streams are sales tax, utility tax, and property tax. Property tax is limited to 1% increase per year if council approves that, plus new construction added to the tax rolls. Utility tax has been pretty flat for a number of years until this year, and there's two segments to utility tax. There's private utility tax, which is tax on natural gas, electricity, phone service, and cable TV. And we've seen that increase this year for the first time in a little while. And it's increased pretty significantly. Again, looking at the first quarter, we're up 15.2% compared to the prior year, which was down 3%. Prior year was up 8%. But we did a little bit of digging into that, and what we found is the areas that have really increased has been in electricity and natural gas. So these, looking at the last 3 years across those sectors, these little spark lines, you can easily see the change in those categories. And we see a little bit a change in telecommunications and solid waste as well, which is great, but those are such minor revenue streams it's not really material to the total tax revenue. But the electricity and gas increases really have. And breaking that down a little bit further, you can see in 2025, there were pretty significant increases in both electricity and natural gas, as you can see here. Additionally, there's a new fee that was effective June of 2024, and that's the Washington Climate Act fee. I called Cascade Natural Gas and asked about that. The state started requiring a cleaner natural gas to be burned in Washington State, and that type of natural gas is more expensive to refine, so that's the additional cost for that cleaner natural gas. Public utility tax, I mentioned earlier there was, we're not completely caught up. This is one of the areas that we're still working on. The March month end is on the public utility tax, which is the utility tax assessed against the city's utilities, water, sewer, solid waste, and storm sewer. So looking at these charts, you'll see that the March monthly, I just used the same revenue as in February. That's generated from our excise tax report, which is calculated due to the state on the 25th of the month. We try to have that done by the 15th, but for a couple of personnel reasons that we have in finance right now, they didn't complete that excise tax report early. So I plugged that number just to try and give a look at kind of roughly where we are for the year. And so far, 7.4% compared to last year, which was up 8% compared to the year before. So kind of trending about where we would expect that to be. Real estate excise tax is the tax that is generated from home sales. These are the homes that are already on the market, so the second time a home is sold. The first time when a house is built, it generates sales tax. When it's sold after that, it generates real estate excise tax. REIT is a primary revenue stream that we rely on for public works projects. So we're at about, through first quarter, 181,000 in receipts, which is close to what we receipted last year at this point at 184,000. But looking back through our history, you can see that that's down. It's pretty consistent with what we collected last year, but it's down to what we have traditionally collected at this point. This next chart probably looks familiar to you. I enjoy this chart very much. It's looking at the receipts through March and then also the home sales through that same period. So if you compare what we've done so far this year at 181,000 in receipts, looking at the number of home sales at 69, compared to last year at 184,000 in receipts and 51 sales. So it appears that the average cost per house is less than what we were seeing in past years. Any questions about REIT?
Mayor Miller,
Mr. Fantini?
on your last chart that you had, 2019 was also a very low, that's a big percentage drop also there. And I'm just wondering why, do we know why it dropped off significantly that year?
Yeah, so I think you'll see some of the same information or some of the same indicators when we're looking at building permits. As we were into that time frame, 2019, we were starting to see indicators that the economy was slowing down, and that was one of them. Real estate excise tax was dropping, indicating that the real estate market was slowing down. Building permits were dropping, indicating the building sector was slowing down as well. Before any kind of a recession set in, COVID hit, and we ended up in a recession for other reasons. But yeah, that was just kind of a general slowdown we were starting to see at that point, 2019.
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Cleveland McGrath?
I also believe we had a number of new home construction developments, such as Rock Ridge, the upper area, 48 North, some of the San Juan Passage. They were all kind of finishing their build out, and those were all high dollar, high dollar transactions. We saw a lot of turnover there.
Okay. Okay, so moving on from real estate excise tax, so into building permits. So I apologize for this chart. I tried to show historical building permit information and what I was finding with the implementation of SmartGov. The information that I had, the historical information I had pulled out of out of Eden was inconsistent with what we were seeing in SmartGov. And so I just kind of am just starting fresh with 2025. We still have the revenue information that we can look at here, and we still have the number of total permits here for the year, which I've been able to verify several of those years going back. But the kind of the mix of these different permit types, I don't have any confidence in. But looking at the revenue number January through March, you can see in this green font here, and so far this year we're at 55,000 revenue collection. Last year was down as well at 77, and then prior to that we had collected around 125,000 per year. And then this bottom number here is collection for the whole year. Looking at the number of permits last year, we were at 38, the year before 28, and then prior to that you can see we were between 65 and 100. But looking at that January through March revenue, it's getting beyond the 2017 time frame, starting at around, anyway, it's easy to see that decrease the last couple of years. It's really tailed off. And as I said earlier, we're seeing that same information in in the sales tax information. Lodging tax receipts, lodging tax still continues to be pretty strong, so we've collected 72,706 so far this year, compares to 74.7 last year, 86 the year before, so pretty consistent real estate excise tax, gee whiz, I'm sorry, pretty consistent lodging tax collection so far this year. And this is just kind of that same chart by fund that I've shown every year now. It shows the budgeted revenue and expenditure versus actual revenue and expenditure by fund. And then the cash balance on the side here dropping down, dropping down through all of our funds. And you can easily see the funds that rely heavily on property tax, such as parks, 6% revenue receipt because that first tranche of property tax has not come in yet. But pointing out the cash balance here, this is at the end of March. Cash balance in parks at 183,000. We used 257,000 in fund balance to balance the revenue budget. So we're keeping an eye on this, but we've talked about this a little bit. This, like through the budget process, this is really the last year that we're going to be able to rely on cash reserves the way we have been for the last couple of years, particularly this year, because those balances have been decreasing, and we just likely won't have enough reserve resources to rely on in the future to make up these months when we're waiting for that property tax to come in. Dropping down through Fund 104, you can see a negative cash balance of 10,000 in the road maintenance fund. Again, this goes back to the excise tax issue I was talking about. We do our excise tax or utility tax allocation through that excise tax exercise, and we haven't done that yet for March. So the utility tax that comes out of the solid waste fund into the road fund hasn't been allocated yet, so that would be a positive number, but this is another fund that relies on other taxes from the state as well as real estate excise tax.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Young?
Thank you. Mr. Hoagland, you made a statement. I just wanted you to elaborate just a little bit further on it. You were indicating when you were talking about the Parks Fund and those adjustments that we're making as a city, and that unless something really sort of changes in what we're seeing, if we were to go into a recognized recession of sorts or whatever it is, you know, you're saying that we're going to really, as a city, have to continue to tighten our belt even more. Would you elaborate a little bit on that? Because, you know, again, we've been watching the trends that's been taking place. You know, I mean, economically, I'm not sure who's not. Right. And but at the end of the day, you know, given the things that we enjoy in our city, there's costs associated with those. But, you know, given the reality of money and financing, you know, would you elaborate a little bit on the fact that we may just, you know, we're tightening now. Some jobs are not being filled, but, you know, just I want you to elaborate a little bit on that for the public as well as for us, because, you know, unless something changes, we'll be happy if it does. But if it doesn't, we still have to make some tough decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really well put. It's a good point. So we have been for quite a period of time now, starting last year, we've been scrutinizing all of the positions that have been coming open when somebody has left a position in the city. We're looking at that to make sure it makes sense to advertise it, to refill it. And when it comes to positions at the city, some are more reliant on tax revenues than others. If we have positions in the utilities, in the utility funds, we don't see the revenue fluctuation that we do in the tax-funded funds. So there's a little more leeway in filling some of those positions, but it also, I think at the same time, gives us opportunities if something like that were to happen. If we had to continue tightening the belt another notch because of decreasing tax revenues if a position was to open up in one of the utilities. We have some flexibility to shift staff around. But yeah, all things being equal, if we don't see some of those revenue streams changing direction, we'll have to, continue to make those decisions about those hiring processes, as well as just general spending. It's been, for the most part, COVID was a crazy example, but for the most part, it's been pretty easy to balance our budget for the last decade or so, with the exception of 2020 and 21. But yeah, so we're kind of in this third year now of kind of flat revenues. So we are continuing to monitor those things and have to continue to make those, or potentially make those decisions when budget time comes. So we're just in the very beginning parts of the budget process, starting to look at our revenue projections and expenditure burn rates and think about how that's going to project into our 2026 budget. So there'll be much more to come on that.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Clue McGrath?
Yeah, Mr. Young brought up a good point. So just so I make sure I understand, we've got kind of two tightenings of the belt. One is that we've been using cash reserves for the last 3 years or so to get our various departments pay for things we want to continue to use. So we've been taking those cash reserves down. But then also we have the other outside element, which is the economy as a whole outside of our city reserves. So we've got kind of a double whammy, potentially really hitting our budget. So I think this goes into our discussion for our retreat in June. That I think is going to be really important for us to really identify and understand how much we have been drawing reserves for the last 3 to 4 years, so that we have an understanding of, what rate are we drawing those down, and what does that look like for the next number of years. And then also, we've talked about kind of holding open positions that we've decided make sense. So I think we need to have that list for a discussion point for our retreat. But also the number, we're seeing a lot more kind of subscription-based line items. So instead of leasing, right, and kind of online subscription things versus buying a software program and having it for 10 years, we're paying it each year to maintain it. I think that would be really critical for each kind of fund or department to have a better understanding of what that looks like. Not right now, obviously, but for discussion at our retreat, if possible.
Yeah, all those things are on the list, and we've been buying down our cash reserve for fiber, a really important project, and we haven't got to the point, because every meeting I have with Steve, I ask him, are we hitting the council policy of our 17% cash reserve? And if we're not, I'm not going to council to say, hey, we need to change the policy or do something different with our spending. But 2026, that's just simply not going to happen unless we get the reprieve with the alternative, FEMA alternative reimbursement funding. I'd flip a coin on that one.
That would help. Yeah, and I guess I'd like to make clear that what we've been doing the last 3 years, this has been by design. Mm-hmm. During the robust financial years, we've saved money in the cash reserves for these years that have been lean. So if you watch the news the last 2-3 years, they're talking about our economy hitting a soft landing, and I kind of feel like we've been in the soft landing zone for like going on 3 years now. But we need to come out of it now, and there's maybe more unknowns now than there has been in the last 3 years. But yeah, we are continuing to monitor every month. We monitor our cash flows. We monitor our burn rate versus revenues. And I guess I wanted that to be clear. we're not taking any chances with the city's financial position.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Fantini?
So when you do your finance updates, I always find myself a little bit alarmist and a little bit optimistic at the same time. And sometimes those balance each other out, which is great. But I guess what I would kind of like to hear is, obviously you've been here a while. We saved money for a long time to prepare for this. That was a great decision, recommendation probably by yourself and approved by the council at the time. As you're looking at what we're seeing now, are you seeing like any, because I feel like I hear a little bit more warning signs from you, but like, is there anything that is glaring at you that is just blinking red that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, that's it's a good question. So I think that the concern that I have is in sales tax, because that is, as I mentioned, property tax is pretty reliable. Utility tax has been pretty reliable and continues to be such. But if our sales tax is not growing, it makes it difficult to balance out our tax-funded, departments. And construction is always such a big part of that sales tax base, with our building permit issues being so low. Just that building sector being as slow as it is right now, it makes me a little bit concerned about what tax revenues are going to be, sales tax revenues are going to be in a year if we don't have those houses and those multifamily buildings in work. It's not going to be generating those sales tax receipts.
I guess one part of the optimist side of me is like, I think to some of our fiber projections and how well that's doing. Hopefully that's going to help us as we go forward, but I'm also looking forward to a deeper discussion on this at the retreat.
Yeah, and that's exactly the discussion that we want to have, and especially, the fiber projection, that's fantastic, but I really enjoyed conversations I've had with a number of members of council about, hey, what can we do, what kind of policy can we do to improve sales tax, for example? And there are some, the construction, we're seeing it. I think we've been seeing it for a while. We're very concerned, but there are some bright spots. Hospitality and boats. Are there things we can do to improve that and kind of close that gap of the other side of the ledger being, contracts that go out 3 years and we only budget out 1 year, and we've said it almost every year is like, hey, this isn't sustainable. We're getting to the point where that's not the case. So that's why we're taking a hard look as we've spent down the reserves. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that conversation and the ideas that hopefully council will have to strengthen those areas.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Young.
What I really appreciated about what you just said, and of course, Mr. Fantini's point, and again, Mr. Hoagland's information coming forward. It's almost as if sometimes we have two opposing viewpoints. One is we love our town being as wholesome and small as it is quaint. I think it's a good word for it that we all love about it, all of the stuff that makes it Anacortes special that we like. And then on the other hand, right now, given the economic conditions that we're seeing out in the world, part of the revenue that we're generating comes from those sales of those luxury items, if you would. And, it's almost like two things. We can promote those things that gives us the revenues that we need right now, while we're also trying to keep our town as wholesome, as affordable. That's, and how do we do that? So, I find that just so interesting, the look, because quite honestly, we need the revenue. So do we accelerate our boat sales, trying to promote those bigger boat sales so we get the revenues that we need? But, I just thought that was just sort of an interesting juxtapose of the viewpoints that we're trying to balance, and I think that's the work ahead for us as well.
So as we kind of drop down through this chart, just looking at the, the various departments, revenues versus expenditures. There's nothing that really jumps out here as being unusual. I'd be happy to dig into any of these if council has any questions about it, but we've got the cash balances of the different impact fees listed here, the REIT balance here, lodging tax balance, 1.5 million in cash, and then the utilities. I know this can be a little busy and confusing, but over on this section for the utilities, it's got the budget revenues and expenditures, the total fund actual revenues and expenditures, and over here, this CHGS, that stands for charges. So the charges for service budget, I have separated out from the capital budget just to be able to track those separately to make sure that our revenue projections for those charges for service budget are accurate and tracking appropriately. So that's what this is here. These are the various cash lines for the utilities, and the water operating fund currently has 18.6 million in it, 11.7 in capital. Sewer. So all of these funds remain healthy, and nothing really looks out of whack, but I'm happy to address any questions you might have. So I believe that's all I have.
Mayor Mill?
Mr. McDougall?
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Hoagland. This has been fantastic. And I was actually just more of a curiosity question than anything else. On the public utilities funds, I think we were showing an increase of 7.4%, something like that. Basically, the wholesale customers or utilities are the refineries, LaConner, Oak Harbor, and then there's the retail, City of Anacortes. That 7.4%, is that, like, these are all pretty stable, consistent funds. Like, is that 7.4, roughly spread across the various, I guess, those kind of 5 main buckets, or is one or the other like up and the rest are steady? Or
yeah,
zero?
no, I like that question. Thank you. So, so this public utility tax on the city's utilities, the largest sector of that, or the largest part of that, would be from the water fund, because we have both refineries purchase water from the city's water utility, and they pay that same utility tax that in-city customers pay. They are outside the city's sewer service area, so we don't sell sewer service to them, but they purchase around 70% of the water that the city sells, and they pay 7% utility tax on that. So
70%, if you didn't hear that, right?
yeah, 70% of the water and the full 7% utility tax.
And those that increase of 7.4%, that's not like one of the refineries like had a big boost in consumption, or LaConner suddenly had a boost in consumption. It's kind of across the board, everybody consistently going up a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That would be, exactly, from kind of across the board, CPI increases. Trying to think back, we do look at the water consumption every month, and I want to say the refineries are up about 1% consumption compared to an average of the last 5 years. So their consumption is slightly up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, any other question? Any member of the public wish to jump in on this quarterly finance update? Okay. All right, with that, we will move on to item 7B, which is ordinance 4098, first quarter budget amendment. That's a discussion item with possible action. Mr. Hoagland.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a pretty easy one. It seems pretty routine. There's only 2 items that we're requesting consideration for amending the budget. The first item is our dog, our police canine T-Bone. has retired, and so we're replacing him with Zeke. So the cost of the new K-9 is $15,000. We do have a restricted revenue stream that we would like to use to pay for that, that amendment of $15,000. That's the opioid settlement money. And then there's also a number of computers that, so as part of the budget process, we go through and we have essentially the same system for computers that we have for the fleet vehicles, where we have a replacement program where we set money aside for the future replacement of those computers. We don't necessarily replace them, though, once their useful life is up, unless they need to be replaced. And what we didn't realize until after we set the budget was some of the computers were not physically able to upgrade to the latest level of Windows. So those were identified. They weren't included in the original budget, but they do have money set aside for their replacement. So we're requesting a budget amendment to replace these additional computers so they can be upgraded. And those, again, restricted to the replacement reserve monies specifically for those computers. So those two items are all we have identified for first quarter budget amendment.
Any questions?
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Young.
I'm just a year or two older than some of the young people here. The $15,000 for a new K-9, that seems like a lot of money, even though it's you know, growing up when, you know, you could almost get puppies and, you know, pure breeds were one price and, you know, mixed breeds were another, but the prices have continued to go up. So I would assume that this is a special breed. I was just wanting you to elaborate a little bit on the $15,000. I tell you, that's a lot of money, but we get what we pay for, I'm sure.
Do you want the chief to elaborate on that? This contract has already been let.
He was already standing up, yes.
We're just moving this money around, Mr. Young,
Yeah.
but this...
No. And to be clear, I'm not complaining about the cost of the puppy, because I'm sure that the due diligence has been done, the hard work has been done, and we know what we want. But, you know, just as a layperson, $15,000 for a puppy, you know, is like, wow.
Chief.
So the cost of the K-9 was dependent on if it came with any basic level of training or not. So this one did have a small amount of training when we got it, just for some basic obedience and commands. We are using instructors in-house and with surrounding agencies to certify it for the detection and the patrol dog components. And that also includes, the price of that also includes the health guarantee of the dog. So once we finish hundreds of hours of training, if there were to be a health issue that removes it from service earlier than anticipated, that dog would be replaced without charge to the city.
No, you answered my question, and I really appreciated that. From the standpoint, you know, my dog recently had a tear on the ACL, and so she's, you know, limping. And so when we went to the doc was talking about a $5,000 plus surgery. And, you know, and I spoke with another friend about it because I'm trying to figure out, you know, my surgery didn't cost $5,000. So, and I talked to another friend, and that friend told me that they had insurance when their dog did the ACL tear. I mean, what did I know? I've learned a lot in this time, so that I wanted the elaboration on it. So I appreciate it, Chief.
Any other questions? All right, any member of the public want to comment on this ordinance? All right, council.
Mayor Miller,
Mr. Walters.
I move that we approve ordinance 4098 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Walters, a second by Mr. Fantini to approve ordinance 4098. Any additional discussion?
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Cleveland McGrath?
do we need to waive the two-read rule first? Am I wrong?
It is an ordinance.
Yeah, no, that's a
That's a good catch.
question. I'm happy to bring this back on consent next week.
I'm not opposed to waiving it, but correct me if I'm wrong,
Nope,
we
you're-
need to waive it first.
You're correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any appetite to waive the two-read rule?
Mayor Miller,
Mr. Walters?
I move we waive the two-read rule.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Walters, a second by Mr. Young to waive the two-read rule for this ordinance. Any additional discussion? I'll do a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then the 4098, a motion by Mr. Walters, second by Mr. Fantini. Any additional discussion on that one? Mr. Franциak, vote please.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
Yes.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Mr. Fantini.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you, and thank you for keeping our council procedures in line. Item 7C is interlocal agreement with Skagit County for Community Court Program 2026-2028. This is a discussion item with possible action. Ms. Shu will be presenting.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, the audience. I actually have two interlocals to present, both with Skagit County tonight, or today. And following the budget discussion, I am appreciative that these are both continuing interlocal agreements with no change in the fee structure. This is due to the good work and communication between the court staff and our court administrator and also the Skagit County. I also want to acknowledge and thank Tiffany Matson because both of these interlocals do not expire until the end of this year, and we're able to do them ahead of time. That creates some additional certainty as we're going into the budget season. So happy to answer any questions, but I think that they are quite self-explanatory.
Yeah, so the other interlocal is with the Skagit County Probation Services also for 2028. All right, council, questions for Ms. Shu?
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters?
I think most of us recognize the value of community court. That's our first contract here, so I move that we authorize the mayor to execute the interlocal agreement between the City of Anacortes and Skagit County for the 2026-2028 Community Court Program.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Walters, a second by Ms. Cleveland McGrath to approve the interlocal agreement with Skagit for the Community Court Program as presented. Any additional discussion? Mr. Franциak, vote please.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
Yes.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Mr. Fantini.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, the next interlocal agreement.
So the next interlocal agreement is in regard to the probation services. And again, there's been no change in the costs associated with these services.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters?
I move that we approve the interlocal agreement between the city and Skagit County for 2026 through 2028 probation services as presented.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Walters, a second by Mr. Young to approve the interlocal with Skagit County for probation services 2026-2028. Any additional discussion? Mr. Franциak, vote please.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Mr. Fantini.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shu. And a final item on the written agenda tonight is item 7E. This is an interlocal agreement with Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission for APD training support. Discussion item with possible action, and Chief Floyd.
Good evening, Mayor Miller, members of council, members of the audience. I come before you tonight asking for approval of interlocal agreement 25-134 APD 001. In summary, we are fortunate enough now to have a regional academy at our disposal in the region that we share with Snohomish, Island, San Juan, and Whatcom counties. That only works if those agencies in those counties offer the subject matter experts to support the regional academy training. So right now, Everett and Arlington are supporting the academy with staff that are dedicated to that regional academy full-time. All the rest of the instructors are there as a collateral duty to their home agency. And this agreement that is before you tonight would allow me to send our staff on city time as our staffing levels allow, and offer that support to the regional academy for the subject matters that those officers are qualified to instruct. This agreement also allows the Criminal Justice Training Commission to reimburse the city for the officer's salary for the time that they spend teaching there. So we are giving quality instruction to our students that are there, and then the city is compensated for us sending someone there. And so far, we have heard great things about the Regional Academy. Our 2 recruits that are in the first class for this Regional Academy are in week 4 now, and the feedback from them has been fantastic, especially when it's compared to the training that we had previously received from the Burien campus.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters?
I don't see any obligation in this agreement to any particular amount of time that we would send our officers to. Okay. And then what do you anticipate as the amount of time that these officers would be gone and unavailable here in Anacortes?
I don't have an amount of time that I anticipate currently because we have 2 recruits that are in training. We have a couple of officers that are off on injuries that are work-related, a couple of officers that are on family leave, and one more that's on some military leave. So though our staffing levels are as high as they've ever been, does not reflect that currently in our patrol schedule, and so I would not be sending one at this time, but it allows us to do so between now and the expiration of this contract, which it's good through 2026.
Through 2028, right?
Yeah, 2028.
March 2028. So no capacity to do it right now, but you look forward to being able to do it in the future. And
Yes,
if, say you were fully staffed and everybody were in the office, would you be sending people there for a couple weeks, or what?
It would probably be just for the duration of those curriculum blocks. For example, they have scheduled most of the range training to be in the morning, so the first half of the day. If our firearms instructor had the interest in doing that, we could make sure that the shift that that person is on aligns with the academy hours, and therefore send them on city time and be eligible for this reimbursement without impacting our ability to handle the 911 calls, because that always has to remain the priority.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. McDougall?
Well, I think I'm definitely in support of this, and I'm curious, does your staff look at this as, like, does this program offer, like, is it a career growth and even, like, you know, facilitate, say, future promotion for individuals as they participate in this program?
I think it's a great opportunity for that, just for being that subject matter expert, providing the instruction to new recruits. Exactly to your point, you know, potential growth opportunities for supervisory positions down the road.
Cool. Love it. Thank you.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Young?
You know, when I was thinking about this, you asked, Mr. Walters asked the question about the local coverage reduction. But, you know, again, to the point that relationships are built, and, you know, sometimes being between, I just think it's a great opportunity to be before people that sometimes move and leave from where they are, and, illustriously, they get a chance to meet with our superior force, and, they may want to come here if we have room for them. And I think that that's a very positive thing. It gets you before the very people who may be looking at some point to go someplace else. And so I think that it'll tell our story in a wonderful way. And so I'm very positive, as well as Mr. McDougall, on this.
Yeah, I think you hit on one of the really important intangible, no, really, on one of the really important intangibles of having the regional academies, that you're working with agencies that you're probably going to be regionally interacting with in the future, and you see an instructor that, Anacortes, we're gives an opportunity for maybe a junior, chief's always out talking to the other agencies, but maybe his firearms instructor isn't always engaging with other agencies on a regular basis. So having that regional interaction is really valuable. So,
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Thank you. And just also the fact that us having eyes on the caliber of education that is, and the training that's happening at this facility is really important. So I'm glad that we'll have some, buy-in, but also that we can provide, or police can provide feedback. Because we really want to have our new officers trained to a caliber that we expect. And I think this allows for us to have more interaction. So thank you for taking a real leadership role in establishing this closer to home and a new location. With that being said, I move that City Council authorize the mayor to execute interlocal cooperative agreement 25-134-APD-001 between the City of Anacortes and Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission for the APD training support.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Cleland McGrath, second by Mr. Fantini to approve the interlocal as presented. Any additional discussion? Mr. Franciac, vote please.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Mr. Fantini.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes?
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yes.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much, and no further business before the council. I'll adjourn tonight's meeting. Have a good night.